Let's do a couple listener questions before we get out of here. I'm guessing the tape will show the game wasn't quite as close as the score. It was close. Two good teams, but Green Bay's U forced errors as much. It made it close. I don't know. Green Bay's U forced errors made it close. Oh, okay. Unforced errors. What am I doing? Yeah, I think that's true. Certainly, like the Texans defense came to play, but as you see, I could have showed even more of the Packers defense and how well they played. They were just dominant from a disruptive standpoint. The coaching was really, really high level, and it just didn't seem like, we talk about like the evolution of offenses, and Slowick's offense just didn't seem as evolved as it needed to be to make adjustments, if that makes sense. You mentioned Morgan having tackle feet in quotes. I don't know if I ever said tackle feet, but I'm sure I did. Do you view Morgan as a tackle still down the road? I don't know that I said that. And as a former NFL lineman, how tough is it to play different position on the line, tackle to guard? Well, the leverage points in the ferocity is a little bit different. Athletes are different on the outside. It's different angles and whatnot. You can see though. I think Morgan is struggling with the physicality and the suddenness of what happens inside. You can't, if you're not a really, really physical player and you don't have good footwork in there, I think it's really tough. Defense was amazing. How impressed you with Eric Wilson? Eric Wilson played so well. It's crazy when guys get hurt and players that you just kind of take them for granted, step in and play as well as he did. And honestly, Neville Hewitt on the other side of the ball, I think he had 9 tackles and a pick. Those guys just played extremely well, and it just makes it kind of, if you're a coach, you just are happy for him because it's like, man, like what we're doing works. The process that we're going through with this defensive coordinator and this defensive staff, what we're doing, these guys works. It makes sense. What do you think the difference was for Gary this week? Was it a nice game for him, or do you think it was a matchup thing or scheme, or just Gary being better? Listen, Gary always plays hard. He was untouched multiple times this game. I don't know that he won for anything, and that's not to put anybody down. I mean, he did in the run game, but none of the pressures and everything that he had, he was literally untouched. Like they were not blocking him at all, which is wild because I think last year you would have game planned the hell out of him, and they haven't. Do you think the Packers D-line had advantage from Hafley knowing Slowick and the scheme's rules? Oh, that's a good question. Or did he play out on the field win? I think both. I think what we just said, I think that he just had answers for them. They didn't really make any adjustments. And even if they did make adjustments, they weren't communicating those adjustments on the field. And I do think that from a physical, listen, if you're not confident in what you're doing, if you're not communicating well, if you're not communicating the snap count well, even, you're not going to play with the same kind of fervor and aggression that the defense is. And if the defense, they can do anything. They can play hard, and they have played hard. So I think they outplayed them on the field, but I think it all starts with the way that they installed their defensive plan on Wednesday. What things did Houston's defense do that frustrated our offense, even though the injuries to the Texans? It's really the same idea. I think they played really physical inside. I think their inside guys beat our inside guys for the most part. The linebackers, stepped up. 2 guys that are not used to playing stepped up and did a really nice job. Certainly you had some success through the air, but you just weren't able to sustain drives. Part of that was the 2 turnovers, but part of that was there was just some really physical play. There was a lot of tackles for lost nails at the line of scrimmage this week, and a lot of that has to do, quite frankly, with you see 4 guys across the line of scrimmage winning their matchups, and if there's a soft spot or if there's maybe the wrong footwork in certain places, like you can have 1 or 2 of those. If you have a handful of them in these key situations, and this happens to everybody, then it's like it's 2nd long or it's 3rd and long, and that, I had that play 3 series ago, and I just had another one, and like it starts adding up. And sometimes when you're watching, you don't really think about it until you go back and go like, that was a 2nd and 6 turned into a 3rd and 8, or that was a 1st and 10 turned into a 2nd and 9 when it should have been another 1st down or something. So those are the things that are I think hurting this team from getting traditional runs. Now on the outside stuff that they were trying to get with Reed, like they just played more physical on the edges. Whenever we tried to pull or run the orbit or run the long handoff, like it did not work. And I think that's a function of They've got some really good players on defense as well. They're super physical. They pride themselves on it. They're the number one pressure team in the league. They play a lot of man-to-man, so that's going to help you in the run game. Like they're built to stop some of that stuff, and I think they did a good job of it. Did you like the all-white look? I honestly did not. I missed the helmets. I like our yellow helmets, man. I think they're awesome. We're in the halfway point of the season. Which rushing attack do you for the Packers? Jacobs, Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Jones better because I think they're both really, really good. I think some of the stuff that you're seeing at the right guard position right now, I think he makes up. I think he made up for that last year. I think he made up for that last year. I think he makes up for a lot of that stuff, or the center position last year. I think he makes up for a lot of that stuff. And I just don't think a lot of people can do that. When was the last time we had an offensive play caller plus defensive coordinator combo working in unison? It's preach. Athlete, yesterday they were struggling a little bit on offense, turnovers and whatnot. Athlete comes in, no problem. Gotcha. No turnovers, but no production either. First and goal, no problem. Start the game, no problem. That was again, the game comes down to these different situations, and it's like, if Tank Dell catches up on I think it's Tank Dell in the back of the end zone, what does the game look like? I think Jordan Love threw a dime to Reed down on like a corner on the right sideline. Maybe that changes that. Maybe that changes the game. So there are these little plays, but certainly when like the penalty flags and a couple of these things, like they do change these games that are two good teams, well fought, physical games. Usually it does come down to a handful of plays. We'd like to, as players, say, nah, you got to take a look at the big picture, and that's true because there's so many plays that could have happened. But sometimes you point at one of these two things because momentum is such a big deal, and you never know. But listen, Packers, the plays when it counts, and on to the next week, man. What's crazy is you're third in the NFC North. Like, how the hell are you third? 5-2. Tough sport. Listen, guys, if you like the film breakdown, please Process to Perform channel. Hit me up, Michael68, Process to Perform on Twitter. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.